What if I told you that the man who discovered Max Verstappen could be responsible for breaking up the Red Bull team in 2025? But the most surprising thing is that, if he leaves, it could completely change the future of Verstappen and all of Formula One. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, is Helmut Marko the hero or the villain in this story? So, what's going on behind the scenes that could jeopardize Red Bull's dominance? Stay until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today we're going to break down everything we know about the controversy surrounding Helmut Marko, the tensions within Red Bull, and how this could directly impact Max Verstappen's future. Helmut Marko is much more than just an advisor at Red Bull. For decades, he has been the silent architect behind the young driver program that has catapulted figures like Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen to the top of Formula One. His reputation has been forged through a clinical eye for spotting talent and a firm hand in molding it into champions. However, that same character, once seen as an unquestionable virtue, is now at the center of controversy. Marko is not only the last representative of the so-called old guard, but also the focus of an increasingly intense debate about whether his relentless style is still suitable for an F1 that has radically changed in recent years. Criticism of Marko is not new, but this season it has been amplified like never before. From public comments about drivers who have not performed at the expected level to statements that have divided fans, his every word is analyzed in detail and generates chain reactions. In specialized forums and on social media, a growing narrative emerges. His continued presence could be holding back the renewal many believe is necessary for Red Bull to remain at the top. On the other hand, there is also a current of opinion that warns that his departure could open a dangerous rift in the identity and competitive culture that have made the team a dominant force in recent years. This is the situation Red Bull finds itself in right now. A team still aspiring to regain its on-track dominance, but internally grappling with tensions that aren't always visible from the outside. And right in the middle of all this, Marko remains steadfast in his role, defending his methods, and convinced that his vision remains the right one to keep Red Bull at the top. In recent weeks, the paddock and specialized media have been inundated with a wave of rumors, placing Helmut Marko at the center of an imminent restructuring within Red Bull. The most potent narrative suggests that Marko could be removed from his position before the end of the 2025 season, something that would have once seemed unthinkable. The main reason, according to sources close to Milton Keynes and discussions in specialized forums, is that his presence would hinder the transition to a more diplomatic and less confrontational management model. Following the departure of iconic figures such as Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, and Rob Marshall, Red Bull appears to be undergoing a period of internal redefinition. And in that context, some believe that Marko represents the final link in an era that, for better or worse, may be coming to an end. However, this is not just a change for image or public relations. Several analysts point out that behind these rumors lies a real tension between the need to preserve the high-performance culture that Marko helped build and the desire to create a more flexible environment adapted to the new generation of drivers and technicians. His recent statements, such as his public criticism of Isaac Hadjar for showing emotion after a poor result, have divided fans and the paddock itself. For some, these comments are proof that his method no longer fits with the current sensibilities of Formula One, where mental health and emotional support for drivers have gained a prominence they didn't have before. For others, these criticisms are a reminder that Marko has never sought conformity, but rather excellence, and that part of Red Bull's success is due precisely to this unwavering demand. The rumors don't stop there. In some conversations leaked on social media and in the media, it is mentioned that influential voices within the team are reportedly pushing for a negotiated exit, avoiding an abrupt dismissal that could generate further instability. At the same time, there are those who see Marko as irreplaceable, a man whose experience and determination have been instrumental in keeping Red Bull a dominant force for years. Within Red Bull, the situation with Helmut Marko is as delicate as it is complex. Officially, the team has not issued any statement confirming or denying the rumors, but the prolonged silence and lack of clear messages have further fueled speculation. Within the team, there is a mix of strategic caution and latent tension. On the one hand, there is recognition that Marko has been one of the fundamental pillars in building Red Bull's competitive identity. On the other, it is perceived that some sectors of management believe his style no longer fits the path the team wants to take in the coming years. This internal debate is unfolding as the team struggles to regain the performance that characterized them in previous seasons, a battle that requires total cohesion and a unified vision, something difficult to achieve in such a divided environment. In the case of Max Verstappen, the situation takes on a personal and strategic tone. Marko has not only been a mentor to him, but also a key figure in his arrival and consolidation within Formula One. The relationship between the two goes beyond the professional, making any move regarding the advisor a highly sensitive issue for the Dutch driver. Verstappen, although publicly loyal to Red Bull, has expressed some frustration with the car's lack of performance this season, increasing the pressure on the team. At the same time, Red Bull's stance toward Verstappen is clear. The goal is to retain him at all costs. The technical and sporting management knows that losing their star driver would be a devastating blow to their aspirations. However, to keep him satisfied, it's not enough to promise a competitive car. It's also necessary to preserve an environment in which he feels supported and motivated. This is where Marko comes into play decisively. Keeping him could be a way to guarantee Verstappen's emotional and professional stability, but it could also perpetuate the internal tensions that have been escalating. It's a delicate balance, in which any decision must consider both the team dynamics and the confidence of the driver who has taken them to the top. If Helmut Marko leaves Red Bull, the blow would not be limited to a simple change in the management structure. It would entail a profound transformation in the way the team understands and experiences Formula One. For years, his presence has been synonymous with discipline, demand, and a strategic vision that has led the team to world titles and forged a reputation for excellence. Without him, Red Bull could opt for a more modern and diplomatic leadership style, aligned with the current trend of greater care for the emotional aspects of drivers and technical staff. This could bring immediate benefits in terms of work environment and cohesion, but there is also the risk of diluting the culture of extreme competitiveness that has been an essential part of the team's DNA. The impact would not be solely internal. Marko's departure would have a domino effect on rivals' perceptions of Red Bull. Teams like Ferrari and Mercedes, which always look for any opportunity to weaken a direct rival, could interpret his departure as a sign of vulnerability. This would open the door to more aggressive strategic maneuvers by these competitors, whether in the technical development of their cars or in the driver market. They could even try to lure engineers and young talent who would have previously preferred Red Bull precisely because of the solid structure that Marko helped build. On a media level, the news would generate massive and constant media attention, increasing the pressure on the team at every race, regardless of its on-track performance. For Max Verstappen, this scenario would be especially delicate. Marko has been a crucial support figure in his career, not only facilitating his arrival in Formula One, but also backing him at key moments when others would have doubted his talent or ability to take on challenges. The loss of that support could leave Verstappen feeling that the team is changing course in a way that no longer reflects his own ambitions and needs. In the coming months, Helmut Marko's situation at Red Bull is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched topics in the paddock and in the specialized press. The decisions will not only be influenced by on-track results, but also by the team's internal dynamics, the balance between powerful figures, and the strategic direction the team decides to take for the 2026 season. If Red Bull decides to keep Marko in his role, it is likely that an attempt will be made to moderate his media presence and soften his communication style, seeking to minimize the controversies that have surrounded him. In this scenario, the goal would be to leverage his experience and instinct for detecting talent, while reducing the negative impact of his most controversial statements. This would preserve part of the team's competitive DNA while gradually introducing adjustments to adapt to the new reality of Formula One. If, on the other hand, Red Bull chooses to begin a new era without Marko, the transition will need to be extremely careful. It's not just about replacing a position in the hierarchy, but about filling a void of influence and knowledge accumulated over decades. The new management would have to act quickly to maintain the confidence of the drivers and technical staff, as well as to send a clear message to the rest of the grid that the team remains a dominant force. As for Max Verstappen, his future will become a critical variable in the equation, as his permanence or departure will define Red Bull's attractiveness to other drivers and sponsors. If Verstappen remains firmly in the team, it will be a sign of stability and continuity, even if Marko is no longer there. But if his commitment falters, it could open a period of uncertainty that would directly impact internal morale and the team's overall performance. It is clear that the near future of Red Bull and Helmut Marko will not be resolved solely in internal meetings, but also in every race, in every result. In short, the situation Red Bull faces with Helmut Marko is much more than a simple matter of names on the board. It is a turning point that could redefine the team's very identity. For years, Marko has been one of the architects of a team's success, a man whose eye for talent and relentless drive have produced champions and historic victories. But in 2025, his style has gone from being seen as a competitive advantage to becoming a topic of debate that divides fans, analysts, and even team members themselves. The dilemma is clear. Keeping him could preserve Red Bull's competitive DNA, but it could also prolong internal tensions. Letting him go would open the door to a profound overhaul, albeit at the risk of losing part of what made the team a dominant force. What seemed like a simple rumor, fueled by forums and social media comments, has now transformed into a real possibility that no one in the paddock dares to rule out. Media pressure, the need for immediate results, and the fragility of internal relations have created a perfect storm in which any decision will have consequences far beyond the season. Max Verstappen, as the centerpiece of a sporting project, finds himself in the eye of the storm. His reaction to the changes will be key to determining whether Red Bull emerges stronger or, on the contrary, begins a period of transition that could cost it titles and prestige. Until then, I'm interested in your opinion. Do you think Red Bull should continue to rely on Helmut Marko's experience and toughness, or is it time to open the door to a radical change? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.